Most websites are designed to be found. They want attention. They want traffic. They want people to click, scroll, and stay as long as possible. But some websites feel completely different. They don't look welcoming. They don't explain themselves. Sometimes they look abandoned, unfinished, or strangely personal. Other times they feel cold, empty, almost wrong. You open the page and within seconds something feels off. Maybe it's the layout. Maybe it's the images. Maybe it's a sentence that makes no sense. Or maybe it's just the uncomfortable feeling that you were never supposed to find it. Tonight, we're exploring the most disturbing websites on the internet, the ones that feel like they shouldn't exist at all. Not because they are famous, not because they are flashy, but because the deeper you look, the stranger they become. Most people experience the internet in a very controlled way. Search engines, social media, streaming platforms, shopping sites. Everything feels organized, familiar, and easy to access. But that's only the visible layer. Beyond that is a much stranger side of the internet. Forgotten domains, abandoned pages, broken archives, personal blogs no one reads anymore, and strange sites that seem to exist for reasons nobody understands. Some of them were never meant to go viral. Some were probably never meant to be discovered at all. And that's what makes them unsettling. They don't feel like normal websites. They feel like digital leftovers, like hidden rooms in a building most people think they already know. The internet feels huge when you think about numbers, but it feels even bigger when you realize how many strange places can still sit online for years without anyone understanding them. And sometimes those places are far more disturbing than anything made to be scary on purpose. What makes a website disturbing? It's not always gore. It's not always violence. And it's definitely not always something obvious. Sometimes a website is disturbing simply because it refuses to make sense. A black background, a low-quality image, a sentence with no context, a looping sound, a countdown that doesn't explain what happens when it ends. Your mind immediately starts trying to fill in the blanks. Who made this? Why is it here? Why does it feel so uncomfortable? That uncertainty is powerful. When something doesn't behave the way we expect, it creates tension. And on the internet, where most pages are built around clear goals and easy navigation, a site with no obvious purpose can feel deeply unsettling. The less it explains, the more your imagination starts working. And imagination is often far more disturbing than anything a website could show directly. Some of the creepiest websites aren't mysterious projects or hidden puzzles. They're old personal websites, pages made by regular people years ago. Blogs, journals, family pages, photo collections, online diaries. The kind of sites that feel frozen in a completely different version of the internet. At first, they can seem harmless, even nostalgic, but sometimes they become unsettling for a very different reason. A blog that suddenly stops updating, a page full of personal thoughts that become more paranoid over time, a diary with entries that grow stranger, sadder, or more confused with each post. Then, nothing. No goodbye, no final explanation, just silence. That silence can make a simple personal website feel much darker than it probably is, because now it doesn't feel like content. It feels like a piece of someone's life, still online, still visible, long after the person behind it may have moved on, or disappeared from the internet completely. And when you read it late at night, alone, it doesn't feel like browsing anymore. It feels like finding something you weren't meant to read. There's a very specific type of website that creates instant tension. A page with a countdown, a warning message, a date, a phrase like, "Don't come back after this day." No context, no explanation, just the feeling that something is supposed to happen. That kind of site is disturbing because it creates anticipation. It doesn't scare you all at once. It makes you wait. And the longer you think about it, the worse it gets. Was it a joke, an art project, a marketing stunt, or was it made for a reason only the creator understood? Even when nothing happens, the mystery stays in your head because a website that feels like it is waiting for an event starts to feel less like a normal page and more like a message. And once a page feels like a message not meant for everyone, it becomes much harder to forget. That's what makes these sites so effective. Not what they show, what they imply. Some of the internet's most disturbing websites become famous because people try to solve them. They contain symbols, strange text, hidden links, distorted audio, or images that seem meaningless until someone starts analyzing them. That's when entire online communities get involved. People inspect the source code, they brighten images, reverse sound files, search for hidden patterns, compare updates, archive every tiny change. At first, it looks like an exciting mystery, but the more people investigate, the stranger it becomes. Because sometimes there is no solid answer. Maybe it was an ARG, maybe it was performance art, maybe it was a private experiment that accidentally got attention. But when no one can prove what it really was, the mystery only grows. And that's when a weird website turns into internet legend, because once thousands of people have looked at it and still can't explain it, the site starts to feel bigger than itself. Not just strange, unfinished, like a puzzle that was never meant to be completed. People usually think of haunted places as old houses, empty hospitals, or abandoned hotels. But in a strange way, the internet can feel haunted too. Old profiles stay online. Forgotten pages still load. Dead links lead to fragments of things that used to make sense. Photos remain. Posts remain. Messages remain. That's why some websites feel haunted, not because of ghosts in the literal sense, but because they preserve presence. Someone made that page. Someone uploaded those files. Someone wrote those words. And even if they are long gone, the website is still there, active, accessible, waiting. That creates a very unusual type of unease. A building decays. A website can remain almost unchanged for years. It still opens. It still responds. It still gives you access to something old that feels strangely alive. And maybe that's why disturbing websites are so effective. They don't just feel abandoned, they feel left behind. Maybe these websites are only art projects. Maybe they're forgotten experiments, internet puzzles, or abandoned pages with no deeper meaning at all. But that doesn't really change the feeling they leave behind, because the most disturbing websites aren't always the loudest ones. They're not always full of obvious horror. They're not always violent. They're not always even trying to scare you. Sometimes the most disturbing websites are simply the ones that feel wrong. The ones that say too little. The ones that leave too many questions. The ones that feel less like pages and more like places. Places with no clear purpose. Places no one invited you into. Places that somehow make the internet feel unfamiliar again. And maybe that's what makes them so unforgettable. Not what they show you, but the feeling that they were always there, hidden somewhere in the background, waiting for someone to find them. If you enjoyed this video, don't leave without liking, subscribing, and commenting your own weirdest internet experience.